All right, I want to welcome you to our Preach with You, Treasuring God. I'm here with Joshua Lutz from Springfield, Illinois, and we are going to talk about treasuring devotion. That's the fifth sermon. If you're going in order with our Treasuring God summer booklet here, there's a place in the notes for the back. You can imagine people in your church opening up and taking awesome notes from what you learn from this time with Josh as you preach this sermon. Take it, make it your own this summer. And so super excited to have you, Josh. I do want to talk before we get into the message about something really important, and that
Sure.
is the Springfield Lucky Horseshoe.
Yes,
If you could, so that's the minor league baseball team for the best reason possible. If you could explain the glory of this for everyone, that'd be awesome.
of course. So there is a sandwich, an open-faced sandwich that was invented by like a busboy at a restaurant years ago, and now it is the famous uh, horseshoe sandwich that's right here in Springfield. It's known for the horseshoe. So it's like Texas toast or bread with your choice. Then fries over that with your choice of meat and then like a cheese sauce. But everybody fights over who has the best horseshoe in town. They're all very good and highly caloric. Uh,
Yeah.
but now our minor league baseball team is called the Lucky Horseshoes. Lucky for Lincoln and horseshoes for, well, they're also lucky, but then for the sandwich.
And also it's charming, right? Lucky Charms.
There you go. Yeah.
There's a horseshoe Lucky Charm. I don't know. Maybe
I
that's,
think there is. It's
yeah.
one of the marshmallows. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate those marshmallows, by the way. But anyway, but that sandwich sounds so amazing. When I think of Springfield, I think of Lincoln. I think of I think I heard a stat that it's the only state capital that's actually in the middle of its state, um,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
like geographically. And then
Yep.
also I think of The Simpsons, and that
Right.
there's a Springfield in every state and all that stuff. But
Yes.
now when I think of it, I think of that amazing sandwich, and I want to go to there
Yes.
and check that out. So that's awesome. Well, that's just some of the glory that you're about to experience in this interview
Mm.
here as we
Yes.
talk about this fifth sermon, treasuring devotion. And so a lot of the things that we're treasuring as we go through this sermon series, July and August, are things that are like things of God, things that we should set our hearts on. This is I think maybe more than anything else a character thing
Right.
for us. And so before we get into that, Josh, if you want to just talk a little bit about your approach to preaching and how you put the sermon together, and then we can kind of get into the details.
Sure. Yeah. So, well, first, Joel, I just want to say thanks for everything you're doing. The Kingdom Built Resources page has been great. We've gone with the Preach with You program all the way through the year. So we've
Yeah.
definitely, as a small church, benefited greatly. And so thank you for all the legwork to put all this together. It's awesome.
No.
Um, so I asked a friend and I asked my wife, what, like if they were going to describe my preaching, how would they do it? And so I won't tell you which one is which. My wife is also my friend, but
Yeah.
here's both. So my friend said that usually I am a passionate speaker, instructive and detailed. He said that I'm well rehearsed, but that is usually pretty practical. And so I'm like, good. That's what I aim to do. I aim to have somebody walk away and be like, what am I supposed to do with all this? So I try to usually give somebody something that they can put into practice. And my wife said, in her words, I am a teacher with preachery packaging, is how she said it. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
There you go.
Um, in school, I was like a history and secondary education major. And then after an internship in Lansing, I was like, you know what? I'm pretty sure I want to do ministry. So I dropped the education part and I added on religious studies. So I can get kind of into the Bible nerdery a little bit. I'm working on my Master's of Divinity right now, which is just going to take forever. But I do like that stuff, and
Yeah.
so
Great.
even in the interview, I want to practice some of that. I've got some commentary sitting here, and so I want to take a just take some
Oh,
quotes from there. So
yeah, that's
we'll get
great.
into a little bit of that.
Come on. I love it. That's great. And calling it an internship in Lansing is generous because it was like 3 weeks of power,
That's
and
right.
you were
Yeah.
such an all-star, and I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I've got a baseball card with Josh Lutz on it, and it's like something real special that I have. So it's his
So
rookie year card signed.
rookie year
Yeah,
signed.
so sweet. So awesome. Well, hey, let's get into the introduction. How are you going to start this message off?
Yeah. So I typically do like recap a series quickly. If we're in a series, I like to say, hey, here's some of what we've covered so far. And I think especially with this one, where people might be in and out and all over the place,
Yeah,
that could be helpful to do. But I think this is also a well-designed series that somebody could just jump in and it's a one-off, you know. I don't think they don't build on each other necessarily.
right.
Uh, so somebody could just jump in and hear just the one. Uh, but I probably will talk about, okay, hey, this month we've been talking about treasuring God, and it's been refreshing to look at all of these things. Uh, but I don't feel very strongly the need that I need to like explain treasuring, because that's probably been done in the first like 4 sermons, and we're already been doing this for a month, so I think people get that that idea.
That's good. Yeah.
Let's see. Let me jump into where my notes are for the intro. Yeah, so I will though start a little bit with value, and I'll say, hey, I don't know about you, but when I value something, it becomes even more natural for me to be grateful for that thing.
Yeah.
Um, I'll probably try to start with a story that will be fun or just funny, engaging. Hey, when I was a little kid, I did not care about the utility bills that my parents paid. It never even crossed my mind that we
Mm.
needed to pay to turn our lights on or to keep the water running or to be, have the trash taken out. But when I moved out, well, and I started paying those bills on my own, then I was really in touch with the blessings of having these utilities, because I understood then the value of those utilities. So if you need a little bit of a reminder of value and treasuring, then I might do it in that way. But I don't know that it's so necessary because we're like I said, we're like 4 weeks in. As I get into the intro, I'm okay. We're going to talk today about treasuring devotion. I'll ask the question. So, how can you treasure devotion? To treasure something, of course, it means that it has tremendous value. It's special. It's rare. It's worthy of being cherished. Uh, and then I probably will take something that one of my kids, or maybe even something that I treasure,
Mm.
and I want to highlight that it's easy to imagine tangibly that we treasure something that is physical. And so I might take like a stuffed animal or a Pokemon card or something that I know my kids treasure, and then I'll talk about how they treasure it because I'm wanting them to see that.
Yeah.
But then I'll put it down and try to get a little theatrical. I did lots of plays and theater, and so a little theatrical with it. And I'll start talking about, hey, we can wrap our minds around something that we treasure,
Yeah.
and it's easy to think through all the practicals of how to treasure a tangible, physical, it's sitting right in front of me object. For preachers preaching this message, they can take something that they treasure and then they can talk about the specific ways that they take care of that physical thing that they treasure. Maybe it's their car, their home, whatever. But how do you treasure something that you can't pick up and hold? Something like devotion. I might, grasp at the air to just try to illustrate like how do you grab on to something like devotion and then treasure that. Um, we know that devotion is more than just a positive feeling about something. It goes far deeper than that. And I'll talk about things that I like. I like baseball, I like guitar, I like going on bike rides, but I wouldn't ever say that I'm really devoted to those things. There's something deeper going on when we're talking about devotion. And then here I'll define how I'm going to talk about devotion for the rest of the sermon. So I'm going to define it as love and loyalty expressed in action. So devotion is love and it's loyalty expressed in action. I'll then talk about, that there's lots of tangible ways that we can recognize devotion. And as we go through the sermon, then I want to show people that love and loyalty are being combined, and the result is some kind of action. And I've got an Old Testament example and a New Testament example of that coming to life.
That's great. Yeah, I love the definition there, love and loyalty. So, because I'm thinking about how much I value that rookie card of you.
There you go.
But I'm be honest, I'm not devoted. I don't have love or loyalty, or at least not the combination of
Right.
that rookie card. So that's good. Yeah.
So that's laying the groundwork. And we're going to get more into that, more into answering the question of, well, how do I treasure something that feels kind of tangible? Well, now it's starting to materialize. Okay, it looks like love and loyalty working together. That's what devotion is. And so now there's going to be ways that we can recognize devotion if we see evidence of love and loyalty.
Nice.
Something like baseball. Okay, I like baseball. I love baseball, but I can't be loyal to baseball. I could be loyal though to the Cubs. I could love the Cubs, and some people might say that's a mistake, but I'm loyal to the Cubs, right? There's love and there's loyalty, and it's expressed in action. I'm not going to put on a Boston Red Sox jersey. I'm going to put on a Cubs jersey. It's shown outwardly. So there's lots of ways that you could illustrate that,
That's
where
great.
there's something that's kind of connected, like baseball, but you can make it something that you can be devoted to if you express love and loyalty with it.
Yeah, I saw a license plate today. That was
Yeah.
It was the Detroit Lions license plate, and which they sell. I don't think I've only seen one ever, but you can get them in Michigan.
Wow.
And it said it was still a fan, like STLAFAN. I'm like, that guy, maybe there's love and loyalty there.
There's love and loyalty there. Yeah.
Misplaced. I took a picture of it. It was shocking. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's how I'm just defining it. And then I want to show some examples of how that shows up in Scripture, because it's all over the place. Once you start applying this to Scriptures, you see it everywhere. One of the things that I learned in Preach With You, or maybe I kind of knew it before, but really it was cemented when John Lusk preached. He was talking about this blitz style of hitting a couple different passages quickly. And I'm just going to do like a mini blitz right here. I'm only hitting one Old Testament and one New Testament, but I want to do it kind of in that style, because I want people to be grabbing onto the excitement of like, oh, wait, there you can see examples of this love and loyalty as devotion in places. Oh, here, come with me. Come with me. I'm going. Let's go. Hey, here's where it is. And so I'll be kind of ramping up my speed at that point. But I want to show in 1 Kings 8 this story about Solomon finishing up building the temple. And I'm just going to, I'll just talk through what's happening. So I'll say, hey, Solomon has just finished building the temple. David wasn't going to do it. It was, this is a job that was going to be for Solomon to do. And once it was finished being built, it was time to bring the Ark of the Lord into the temple. Everybody from all of Israel was there. And Solomon says this great long prayer of dedication to the temple. And as he's closing out his prayer, he has a great amount of hope for the people. And this is how he ends his prayer. And then I just want to share this one verse in 1 Kings 8:61. It says, let your heart be completely devoted to the Lord our God, to walk in his statutes and to keep his commands as it is today. That's how he ends the prayer. But it's a prayer of love and loyalty. he says that it's a matter of the heart. He said, let your heart be completely devoted to uh, the Lord our God. You don't say that someone is devoted if their heart isn't involved. Devotion requires this foundation of love. And then, in the second half of the verse, we see the result of that devotion that is coming from the heart is that the people are completely devoted and they walk in his statutes and they keep his commands. So in short, they'll be loyal to the Lord their God, right? And so he's going to lay out these commands, and then they're going to follow them. They're going to express their devotion in loyalty. That starts though in the heart. So it's a matter of love as well. And so I'll just re-emphasize: devotion is love and it's loyalty. Then I'll quickly jump to the New Testament example, and this is going to be familiar for people, but I want them to see it in this way. Okay, so in the New Testament, right after the first gospel message is preached, we see the beginning of the first century church. And Peter preaches the gospel, and people are cut to the heart, and I'll emphasize heart, because I'm trying to show that this is a matter of love and loyalty. And so, in a similar way as Solomon is speaking to the people of Israel, now Peter's speaking to the people of Israel, and it's a matter of the heart here as well. And we know the verse, but in Acts 2:42, Luke, the writer here, describes what they're like and how they respond to the gospel. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to the breaking of bread and to prayer. It just kind of like rolls right off the tongue. We've heard it so much, but I want people to see it in this context.
That's great.
Now, at this point, I'm going to start. I'm kind of like leaving the defining what it is, and I now want to get into kind of a sticky question that I think that will be helpful. So, I want to emphasize that these things that the people did, that the disciples did, these are expressions of love and loyalty. To be committed to the apostles' teaching, to be committed, devoted to fellowship, to be devoted to the breaking of bread, to be devoted to prayer. These are all ways that devotion is expressed. And there's lots more. There's lots more ways that we can talk about, with your wealth and your time and your energy. These are all ways that people can express devotion. But we want to remember that these are expressions of devotion. They're not devotion itself. Devotion itself, and then we come back to the definition, is love and it's loyalty expressed through these means. I think that this will resonate, I think, with people. When we start to get to a place where these outward expressions of devotion are disconnected from a heart of love and loyalty, then we start to get in some big trouble. Because then it's all about the expression of devotion, and we've lost the heart of love and loyalty, which is supposed to inspire right action. So we've got to start with right heart, and then it comes out as right action. It's then that I'll probably get a little theatrical with this. I like to play with alliteration, change up my pace, get loud, more gregarious. I'll probably say, that's when we're in big trouble, and then I'll let it just kind of sit. And I'll say, that's when we descend into discontent. That's when we stumble into grumbling. That's when we succumb to the schemes of Satan. And I'll just build that, and I'll probably come up with 4 or 5 more that use some alliteration and say this: when the heart gets disconnected and we're focusing just on the expressions, then that's when we're in big trouble. But the landing point there is that we lose the heart of love and loyalty for God. That's a problem. That then sets up, okay, now we've got this big problem. What do we do? Or what's the big question? And it brings us back full circle to the beginning. Well, how do you treasure devotion itself? And how do you treasure a heart of love and loyalty? Not just the expressions of devotion, but to treasure devotion itself, the heart. to be committed to God, loyal to God, to love God, because that's where it has to start. And then I say, to answer that question, we're going to be reading from the Gospel of Luke. And then I'll give some quick background of Luke.
That's great.
Good. Should I just keep rolling through that? Or?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I'm gonna get love and loyalty tattooed on my body. This is I'm loving it. And I'm getting it. So yeah, let's go.
Cool. I'll now that I've done some of the kind of dramatic theatrical bits, now I'll go into the other side of my brain, and we'll start talking with some more scholarly stuff and try to give some people some great content that they can chew on. I'll talk about how Luke is masterfully written. It's an orderly account. Luke calls it an orderly account.
Yeah.
I might talk a little bit about some of the themes. I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but I think an important theme in Luke is role reversal. You see it all throughout the gospel. There's examples of God turning the usual order of things upside down.
Yeah.
And we see that in the primary passages that we're going to get to in Luke 14. And so I want to give people maybe a couple of examples of that. I haven't determined how many I want to give. I don't want to go over on time or lose people's attention. But I have 3 points, and I know it's like a long setup to get to the 3 points, but the 3 points come pretty quickly. They're all within this main passage, and we're really just working from Luke 14. The first point is, we're answering the question, how do you treasure devotion itself? And I'm going to start with point number 1 being carry your cross. I'm going to read Luke 14, 25 through 27. And I'll read that. I can read it now too. Verse 25 says, large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. I want to show you what this commentary is Robert Tannehill, and he has a great little segment here on family. And this is really just for the preachers. We won't, you have to figure out how you want to synthesize this and get it in there. But I think it's helpful. So he says, there are a whole series of anti-family sayings in Luke. And then he lists, it's in chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 12, chapter 18, and 21. So you see this actually all over the place in Luke. The demand that one hate one's family is perhaps the strongest. The parallel in Matthew 10:37 only forbids loving family more than me. So you see in Luke, this is different than in Matthew. In Matthew, he says, you can't love your family more than you love me. Luke doesn't even put that in. He just says, if you don't hate your family, that's really strong language. Understanding that Luke probably used Matthew and then omitted that is pretty powerful. Luke is trying to say something here to his listeners. But he says, in the ancient world, the terms love and hate referred less to emotions than to behavior that either honored. One more time. In the ancient world, the terms love and hate referred less to emotions than to behavior that either honored or dishonored someone else. Hating one's family meant doing something that injured them, particularly by disgracing them. Life was family-centered, and the honor of the family was very highly valued. Every family member was expected to protect the honor of the family. If some members joined a suspect movement and abandoned their home, this brought disgrace on the family, particularly if done in disobedience to the patriarch. Such persons showed hatred for the family and also disobeyed the command to honor father and mother. The list of injured family members in 1426 includes the wife, unlike Matthew 10:37 and Mark 10:29. So this is another way that Luke is just really honing in on this. He says you've got to hate your family, and then he includes wife in here as well, which is not in uh, Matthew 10 and Mark 10. The result is a contrast, with this with the banquet invitation. So this is just it's good stuff to see like the honor shame culture and really like how powerful this would be. Um, and I eventually though I'm getting back to this point of carrying your cross. This isn't the first time that Luke is talking about carrying a cross. It might be here. I'm sure people have heard the point made before, like, hey, Jesus hasn't even gone to the cross yet, so this would be jarring for his disciples to hear about the cross. What does that even mean? What is he really saying? Well, in Luke 9:23, that's the first mention of that. He says, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. Across daily and follow me. So we have to understand this passage in Luke 14 with the context of Luke 9 in the back of our mind. This is a daily walking with Jesus. It's a step by step, day by day kind of journey that we are carrying our cross. And this is the way to live a devoted life, to live it day by day with love and with loyalty, taking one step after another on this journey. I probably won't get too much into this, but there is a strong like journey motif in Luke. It's a winding road, but it's done daily. It's kind of interesting to see, like in Luke 9, there's a pivotal verse where Jesus turns his head towards Jerusalem, and then there's this long journey for him to get to Jerusalem, but they don't take a straight path to get there.
Yeah.
It's all over the place, and you get like little road signs along the way, and you're like, why are they going that way? If you're looking at a map, they're just kind of like going all over the place. But that journey motif is really strong, and you see that that's what's being described here. Kind of like the discipleship is like that. It's not always just a straight line. You're going to go all over the place. So I think that's kind of interesting as well.
I love that. If I can jump in, because
Please.
I'm looking for that, because it says he resolutely turned his face toward Jerusalem, and
Right.
and for the longest time I could never find it, like, because it's so early in Luke, and it takes so long.
It's so long.
Kind of models Israel in the desert in a lot of ways, a different place, but maybe the maps, if we do like a national treasure kind of thing and put them over each other, I don't know. But you know what I like about that commentary is the word honor. And I think if love and loyalty and honor, like that's such a good way to put it. So I think that when I preach this, I definitely want to think about honor, and then just the question, like, one way to know if you're devoted is do you feel like God is honored by your life? So good stuff.
Yes. I've got several other books here sitting at the table. Can we go in? I know this is a little different maybe from our normal interviews, but I think this is fun.
Let's do it.
Can we look at some more books? Okay.
Oh.
So I just want to share this resource too. So this is Joel B. Green. Good name.
Joel. I went to Michigan State, so this Joel B. Green too.
There you go.
It's Joel B. Green and white.
There's a great chapter in here if you can get your hands on it. Chapter 5, it says, "Let them take up the cross daily, the way of discipleship." And this whole thing is about taking up the cross daily, and then that connecting to discipleship. So many great little nuggets in here. They're just super helpful. But it's more about this. Look, devotion isn't always just getting everything perfectly right. It's just being loyal and taking each step, one step after the next, and not quitting. Devotion is loyal through and through. There's a love that is unshakable. There's this heart that just says, I'm just not going to give up. And that's what I'm trying to communicate here. And as Jesus was resolutely set towards Jerusalem, and even though it was a winding road, like, he kept on carrying the cross, until it was time for him to ultimately be crucified. When we remember the cross as like the main thing, I mean, if you just don't forget that the cross is the main thing, it's like it gives us inspiration to want to keep on going. But that's got to be the basis of devotion, right? What
Yeah.
else could we have devotion be based in except for the
Right.
love of God that is shown to us in Jesus dying on the cross? So we too, if we want to be treasuring devotion, we've got to carry our cross as well.
Good. Yeah, and people do get devotion all messed up into other things though. So that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is that problem that I identified earlier is that people get caught up in the expressions of devotion,
Yeah.
and then they point to those as being devotion. It's like, nope, that's not quite right. It's the love and the loyalty, and then that will naturally come out in these expressions. But it'll be an overflow from the heart. It won't be like, oh, I got to go do those devotion like that, devotional stuff again.
Yeah.
No, it starts in the right place. Then
If you have it in the right place, I think it helps you identify what's truly worthy of devotion.
yeah,
So that's great.
absolutely. Uh, there's more I could read about this or show in this book. But yeah, this is just it's more about the motif of the journey in Luke, and so that's pretty helpful.
It's awesome.
Rolling into the second point. So we're really just we're reading this counting the cost section in Luke 14, and so we started with point 1, carry a cross, and if that's where we're starting devotion and treasuring devotion, treasuring that heart, this is great. It then leads us into this second point, this little parable. Second point is to count the cost. Right now, we know this again, but I'll go ahead and read it. In verse 28 of Luke 14, it says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. If you have any real life examples of maybe seeing somebody start a home improvement project, or maybe starting a home improvement project yourself and not finishing it, or seeing something in town built and not finished, that might be a good time to insert that illustration.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick because I was just doing a counting the cost Bible study with somebody, and in my town they built a Popeye's chicken, and fully built. The whole it's got the sign, like it's got you could drive up and look at the menu on the video board, all that, and it has not opened. It's been fully done for like 3 months, and now it's for sale without ever opening. It's for sale, and I'm like, and come at me if you think this is not the truth, but that's the best chicken sandwich there is. It's better than Chick-fil-A. That Popeye chicken, it's the best chicken sandwich. And
so there was hope, and then it was stolen away.
Yeah, they didn't count the cost.
They didn't count the cost. And now they're going to pay the price for not having.
It hurts to see that, to have such a good preaching illustration.
Well, there you go. That's the idea. Use some kind of illustration here that's going to help lock it into people's mind. But really, it's more of the same. I think it's important to now consider your audience, right? And so at this point, I would definitely say things like, hey, I know there are some of you that are sitting in the audience today, and you just haven't taken the time to really consider the cost, counting the cost of discipleship. What is it going to take? You just consider, we want to consider the audience. So there's people studying the Bible. They're going through the Go with God. They're going through some other Bible study series. This is a great time to kind of prick people to remember that, and also to reflect on when they counted the cost and became disciples themselves. This is a great point where there can be encouragement, that, hey, there's so many folks in here that you're still building. You're still building. You counted the cost back then, and you're still here. That's amazing that you're still building. And look what you've built with God's help as you partnered with Him all this time. And so, I would really lift up the congregation here, so that they can feel like, wow, a life of self-denial and watchfulness is hard, but you're still here. There's This is like the Matthew Henry commentary, and it's the one that's like free, but this is the paper version, but it's easy to find online. I think it's built into a lot of the Bible tools. Um, but he says that we ought to expect the cross, then consider the expenses and the perils.
Mm,
I like how he phrases that.
yeah.
Um, it's a life of self-denial and of watchfulness. It forces us to ask the question, can I afford it? Sorry, were you going to say something there?
No, I'm writing down expect the cross. I'm gonna get that tattooed too. I've got a
Yeah,
series of
expect the
tattoos
cross.
that I'm gonna get after this series is over. So yeah.
Perfect. And we should, right? It's a great comment because we saw it in Luke 9, and we see it now again in Luke 14. Jesus has set his face towards Jerusalem. He's talking about death, like, and I think it might have even been I don't know, a couple weeks back as we were talking about the gospel story when Peter is preaching his gospel message in Acts 2. What's the last phrase or the last word that he uses in his message is crucified.
Yep.
And this is a big it's a big theme obviously in all the gospels, but Luke is like really harping on this. And obviously Luke writes Acts as well. So there's just this great through line that we've got to understand that death is the expectation. We're considering the expenses. We're considering the perils.
Yeah.
We ask the question, can we afford it? Uh, the answer is, it's kind of like yes and no. It's like, of course we can't pay the price. There's no way we could pay the price on our own. Um, but really, the price that we pay is just not giving up,
Mm.
not giving up. That's really what is expected.
That's what I needed that Popeye's chicken owner to understand.
Just don't give up.
Yeah.
Just
Come
don't
on.
give up.
The people want chicken.
That's right. And then that'll eventually lead into the last point. Consider it lost. Consider
Mhm.
it lost. And so these all, they rhyme on purpose so that we can remember that we want to carry the cross, count the cost, consider it lost. So
Bro,
uh,
come
if
on.
people if
Yeah.
people don't remember as it's going, we'll hit it again at the end. But the hope is that they then can remember these three things that are all built into Luke 14. We've asked the question, can we afford it? We certainly can't, but let's see what happens when we read Luke 14:31 through 33. It says, or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he's able with 10,000 men to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? He's not able. He will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. I like when I read this with folks. I know it feels a little bit like just a counting the cost Bible study. But when I read this with folks, I like the question: can you afford not to surrender? Because we've just talked about, can you afford the cost, the building costs? Can you build that tower? The answer is, well, I mean, we were going to try, try our best, but ultimately, like, we don't have what we need. God needs to supply the rest. But in this circumstance, it's clear that the only thing that you can do is to surrender.
Yeah.
To not do so would be to uh, intentionally, thrust yourself into perilous and certain death. It's not going to work out.
Yeah.
I don't so much think that in verse 33 it's saying, uh, you know, it says, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. I, yeah, that's true, but it's just a statement of fact. Like you just won't be disciples if you don't give up everything, if you're not willing to give up everything. I think it's more of a commentary saying that, like, to be a disciple is to give up everything. In the
Right.
same way that we are to expect the cross, well, we have to expect that we would give up everything. Why would we want to hold on to anything when the alternative is living with God forever? Um, there's more that I'll probably flesh this out more. I don't know how far I want to get into talking about the battle. except for that, I want to ask the question: can you afford not to surrender? um,
Yeah.
well, this will bring us to the last bit. I'm still on the fence about what I want to do with verse 34 and 35. Uh, I mean, it could be good to also include that, but I may skip over it and jump right into the conclusion. Uh, I'll rephrase the question. How can you treasure devotion? Not just the expressions, but the actual devotion itself. And it's a heart of love and loyalty expressed in your actions. The only way is through help from our Almighty God. Now, this is where I'd like to insert the psalm that was assigned with this uh, with this passage, but it really works out well.
Yeah.
It's almost like it was designed to work out really well. But it's a song of ascent, right? So that means that it's a song that is sung when you're on a journey.
Yeah.
And Luke, this motif of the journey is all throughout Luke, and so it makes sense that we too would sing this song of ascent as we're on the journey, walking with the Lord, taking step by step, carrying the cross daily, and it's a great psalm. So this is where I'll end the sermon, very likely, by reading Psalm 121. It's a song of ascents. I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And I won't read the whole thing now, but that the whole psalm is great for illustrating that the best way to be devoted is to take our cues from God, because He's the one who's devoted to us, and that's where I'll end it. We can be sure of, or we can be sure of one thing: God is devoted to us, and that is a fact that is worth treasuring. And then I'll go into a couple of statements to close it. God is the one who provides the help. God is the one who will prevent your feet from losing their grip. He never sleeps. That's devotion. He's watching over us. He's protecting us. He's devoted. He's devoted to us. He's devoted to watching over your life. And so the question is now going to be for you, how are you going to treasure devotion? How do you treasure a heart of love and loyalty? Well, first we have to carry our cross, count the cost, and then consider it lost. And then that's where we'll close out, just by
Oh,
restating those 3 points.
yeah. I love it. And that Psalm 121, a lot of people do have that tattoo, by the way. I don't know how this got
There
sent.
you go.
My
You're running out of
brother-in-law,
space. Yeah.
yeah, my brother-in-law has the first verses of that on there. So the whole thing, what it reminds me of, and I shared this in the study I did earlier, is 2 Timothy 2. And I want to add this to our study series in the Counting the Cost study, because it says, here's a trustworthy saying: if we died with him, we will also live with him. If we
Yeah.
endure, we will also reign. If we disown him, he will disown us. Ouch. But then that flip that you were talking about happens here in this
Yes.
song. If we're faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot disown himself. And
Mhm.
so when you talk about devotion and faithfulness, ultimately we're going to fail. But God won't. He can't. He
He
never wakes
won't.
up.
He can't.
Yeah, he can't. And so putting your eyes on him is the way to go. So I think it's an excellent message. Any last thoughts for us when we preach it?
No, I think every guy's gonna make it his own. There's always some sermon spice that you can add in, little illustration here, personal things there, here and there. I think just the big thing is to highlight that devotion is not just the expressions of devotion. Devotion starts from a deep love and loyalty to God, understanding that He loved us first. He was loyal to us first, even when we haven't been loyal to Him. If people can get that right, uh, man, we're in good shape. If people get devotion right as love and loyalty, not as um, legalistic weight of here's a big long list of things that you've got to do.
Yeah.
sometimes that can be where discussions about devotion will go. Well, have you burnt yourself out enough yet? Have you done enough yet? Like, have you
Yeah.
worked hard enough yet? And I can fall into that trap because it's easy to be like, look, yeah, look what I did today.
Yep.
Uh, but that's not what it is.
Mhm.
Those things will come, of course. But if we start in the right place first, then it will get there. So
That's great. That's great. I think it's a really important message, and you did a great job putting it together, Josh. I like the expression sermon spice. I interviewed Tom Newley from Wisconsin, and he
mm,
called it sermon cheese, which is totally a Wisconsin way of saying that.
that
I've never
sounds
heard
about
that
right.
before, but I'm learning. This is all about learning. So
Very good.
awesome. Well, this is gonna be great. Hey, and I just want to say before we go, Friday Power Hour. If you haven't checked it out yet, we're doing that. I think this sermon, if you're doing it in order, this year lines up with the Vision Conference, so that might get tricky, but we'll
Yeah.
get the word out. But for 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Friday Power Hour, get the help you need to make your sermon really pop. That sermon spice, sermon cheese, whatever you want to call it. It's all there for you. So thank you, Josh. Super appreciate
Sure.
you, brother.
Yeah. Thanks.